held up the cell phone to the laptop. So we made it work, but glad you made it back today. All right, do we have any suggestions for class this morning or requests in particular? No? All right, well, it's a new month, so we were gonna shift gears a little bit here and continue to move up. So I've been kind of targeting the different energy centers of the body for the last 6 months. So the next month, the month of November, we're going to be focusing just our awareness a little bit more on Ajna and Sahasrara chakra. So these are our two highest energy centers of the body. So these parts of our body are associated more with our meditation, concentration, higher awareness, and that type of thing. So poses that are generally associated with that area are inversions. So I will be giving us an opportunity at the end of class, those of you that do practice inversions, to do so. Of course, I will give us modifications because I do not in particular really do full inversions anymore in my practice. But what that entails, if we just wanted to build up strength to maybe do that someday, is upper body strength. So bringing ourselves up into headstand, for instance, core strength, and a lot of hamstring flexibility, because getting into those poses, you need to be able to lift your legs up and get yourself in a position to do that with the strong core. So we'll be targeting little hamstrings, little core, upper body. And then of course, we'll be doing some pranayamas and a little bit of meditation. I like to think of our asana practice as a moving meditation. So the whole time being very centered and focused and mindful. So let's get started. I will put you all on mute for now, but you can unmute yourselves to ask any questions or give comments. And so we will move to our mats if you're not already there and have some of our props. And basically the usual stuff that we've been working with. So let me see if I'm in frame there. Okay. All right, so pillows, bolsters, yoga blocks, blankets, our yoga strap if we have it, additional folded towels, cushions as needed. And you might want to have, if you have a folding chair, have it nearby, or if you're near a piece of furniture, we can use that as well. So today we're going to start lying down on the ground. We were starting with a gentle inversion here, but we're going to do some more fluid movements at the beginning of our practice and start targeting our core and hamstrings right away. Now, if you do want to take extra support, so a bolster, a pillow for those legs underneath the knees, a little extra cushion for the back or the head, do so. I want to be as comfortable as possible here. Oh, another thing that you might want to have nearby, which I don't know if it's like a box of tissues, because we are going to do Nadi Shodhanam today, or alternate nostril breathing. It's a really wonderful pranayama exercise, but it does open up the sinuses. So having, I don't know if I have, oh, I do. I know where I have one. So if you want to go grab a box of tissues. I don't necessarily have allergies, but I don't know, my sinuses have definitely been a little bit more active than normal. And I did turn my heat on this past week when it got really cold. So if you've turned your furnaces on for the first time and we have that drier air inside and kind of moving things around a little differently, I think that's kind of affecting some of us as well. All right, so let's get started. We will take a comfortable reclined position here on our mats. We'll all take a moment to get organized. So that means we want to loosen things up, slide those shoulders down, float the low back just enough to kind of lengthen it out. I know lying flat on the floor isn't the best for everybody, so remember, you can have those knees bent, falling together, feet a little wider, maybe with the support of a pillow. Or we'll stretch those legs out, allow the feet to fall open. And then we'll roll those arm bones open, palms up. So starting in Shavasana, a purposeful restorative pose where we absorb a lot of the benefits of our practice. Once we organize the body in a comfortable position, rock the head a couple times side to side, just loosening up the neck, and then we want to find the very back center of our skull. Once we've found that, we'll close the eyes. Maybe poof the cheeks with air, wiggle out the mouth and tongue and jaw. And then once we've got all the wiggles out, we'll press that pause button. Let's take a nice deep breath in through the nose right away this morning. Start to fill the body up. And on our exhale, we'll breathe that breath all the way back out. Just kind of clean things out, start letting go of where we came from, anything on our to-do list for the day, and really allow ourselves to be present for the rest of our practice. Let's do that one more time. Nice deep breath in through the nose. And exhale, release that breath all the way back out. And then let's take our mental focus through the body here. Purposefully relaxing the body, letting go of any tension and tightness in the muscles. We'll pay special attention to those little muscles around the face, so let go of any expression. Soften the space between the eyebrows. Feel the weight of the limbs flopping into the floor, down the arms, into the hands and fingertips. All the way down those legs, into the feet and toes. And then relax around the torso as we soften the heart and chest, the back of the heart. Relax around the waist, all of the abdominal muscles. And as usual, as we're connecting to our body here, we may come across areas that feel a little different this morning, areas that we might be taking care of. So it's important to let those areas relax as well, remembering that we will honor and listen to them throughout our practice. And now we'll spread this awareness to the rhythm of the breath. We'll begin by just observing our natural breath this morning. Starting to notice the subtle movements of the body with the breath. Any natural sounds that the breath might be making. And then today we're going to take this into a 3-part breath. We often do this kind of on our own, but we're really going to concentrate on moving that breath through the 3 different areas of our body. So at this time, if it helps us concentrate, place the right hand on the belly and place the left hand up near the heart on the chest, but the upper arm bones are still relaxed on the ground. On our next inhale through the nose, we'll start with the abdomen. So as we breathe in, we'll relax the belly, allow it to expand. We'll fill that breath all the way up into the chest, and the chest will rise. And then we'll take in our maximum breath into the throat up to the brim. On the exhale, we'll reverse that wave back out, so we soften the throat. We relax the chest. And then we let the belly fall back into the body, or we add an additional contraction of the abdomen, drawing the navel to the spine to really push the breath out. Inhale, belly expands. Breathing into the chest, the rib cage expands. And filling our body all the way up to the brim in the throat. And the exhale softens the throat, relaxes the chest. Belly drops back down, or a little bit more effort into that contraction. So waking up these abdominal muscles a little bit as well. Move at a comfortable rhythm with your breath. Do try to keep it as even as possible between your inhale and exhale. And keep the mind very focused on this fluid 3-part breath. We'll take just a few more rounds. So at this point, if you want to start trying to stretch the breath, increasing our lung capacity here, you'll add 1 or 2 counts, just really expanding as much as possible. Same thing on the exhale, you'll put a little bit more time and effort into cleaning the body back out. And then we'll take 1 more big breath this morning. And this one, we will just breathe in and out as much as we possibly can. So that next inhale, sip in the air, keep filling, filling, filling. All the way up to the point where we can possibly take in no more air. And at the very top of that breath, calmly start to exhale it back out. And on this exhale, same thing, just exhale, exhale, every last drop. When we think we've gotten all the air out, exhale even more. And at the bottom of that exhale, we will gently relax, following and controlling the breath for a moment, so let it go. Let the breath wander wherever it wants to. Let's relax those arms back down beside the body and start to wake the body up. So we'll give the toes a wiggle, the fingertips, a rock of the head side to side. Next breath in, let's reach our arms overhead and let's bring the legs together down the middle of our mat. It's okay if you still have a pillow or support there. If your knees were bent up towards the ceiling, we could try to straighten them out at this point. And we'll take a couple breaths on our long body stretch. So point and flex the feet a couple times. Reach through your right side, reach through your left side. Big breath in, spread those fingers and toes, flex those feet. On the exhale, we'll float our arms down and step our feet in. We can slide some props out of the way if they're there at this point. And then we'll draw those knees in and just rock out our back here. Bring the knees to neutral, stretch both legs up to the ceiling. In waterfall pose, hold behind those thighs, maybe vigorously rub and down the back of those thighs and our hamstrings here. Actively press those heels up to the ceiling and then the toes. Now hold on to the backs of those thighs and press the thigh bones forward into the hands. Draw the low belly into the low back so we feel nice and grounded there. Powerful pose. Let's try flexing those feet. So line up all the toes, including the pinky toes, and try to pull them towards those shins. Thighs are pressing into the hands, low belly's pulling in. Take a big breath in. And now we're gonna hold on to just the right thigh, point the toes up to the ceiling, and on the inhale, let's lower our left leg down towards the ground. Now, some of us might wanna stay in a hover here, continuing to add a little bit of strengthening. If we need more stretching and flexibility, bring the left leg all the way to the floor. And now let's give our right side a little attention so we can continue to knead into that muscle back there, our hamstring muscle. You can continue to point, flex the feet, whatever feels best. Keep that low back grounded. And then to go a little bit deeper, we're just getting warmed up, so don't expect to go to your furthest stretch unless you've already done some movement this morning. We'll float the head and shoulders up and walk our hands towards our calf muscle. That left foot is either hovering or grounded, as if we're trying to reach our nose towards the knee. Take a big breath in. Now on this exhale, we'll relax the head down, and we're gonna try to slowly lower the right leg all the way back down to the ground, using the control of our core. Good. When that leg touches down, inhale both arms back overhead, stretch it out. Exhale, arms down, walk those feet in, hug the knees in. Both legs extend back up into our inversion. So activate core, press the thighs into the backs of the hands, And then we'll hold on to just the left thigh, point through the toes. And on the inhale, try to lower that right leg down towards the floor. Whether you're hovering a few centimeters from the ground or bringing it all the way to the ground, your choice. Maybe a little bit of both, little strengthening and then a little bit more concentration on stretching. Give that left hamstring some attention here. A little bit deeper, hands reach up to the calf, pull the belly in, float the shoulders and head from the floor as if we're trying to bring our nose towards our knee. We are still trying to keep that left leg as straight as possible and the right leg is hovering or anchored. Take a big breath in. On the exhale, relax the head down. Left leg lowers all the way down to the ground. When it touches down, inhale those arms overhead, stretch it out. And then exhale, arms come down, walk the feet in. Pull those knees in. Now this time we're gonna go right into some yogi sit-ups today. So we'll re-extend our legs straight up to the ceiling, but this time we're just using our muscles. So try to straighten your legs up to the ceiling. Hands can be down beside the hips. I like to slide my hands down underneath that lower buttock, and that helps my low back sink even further onto my mat. Here, point through those toes. Legs are straight. This takes a lot of effort. And on our inhale, we will lower the right leg towards the ground. Now, you might only go a few degrees, so maybe 10, 20 degrees. You might make it to 45. If you're taking it into that hover, your back should stay in neutral. And then exhale, we pull the leg up. Other side, inhale the left leg. Lowers to ideally the same degree that you just did on your first side. Exhale, slowly pull it up. So we're not swinging the legs. We want to use our muscles. So keep going, follow the breath. We're drawing in through those lower abdominal muscles the whole time, actively trying to keep those legs as straight as possible. And then relax the face and the throat. So don't use the jaw to do this work. Good, nice, slow movements. I love it. You might start to feel a little burn in the belly, and that's normal. We're kind of trying to activate that Agni or fire. And then we will do one more on each side, balancing ourselves out. After we finish that left side, we'll take a quick break. So we'll drop the knees in, hands to knees or shins, rock it out, relax the belly for a moment. Good. So once we catch up here, just pause. We are going to do one more round. So you have an option to stay right where we are, or we'll take it up a notch. So we'll re-extend the legs up, arms are down, our hands might slide underneath that lower buttock. Keep the low back to the ground. So if that was enough for our bodies this morning, continue with your single leg, or we'll glue the legs together and inhale, lower them both towards the ground. Now you might not go as far. Remember, we need to keep the back connected. So if you start hyperextending the back away from the floor, it's probably a little bit much. The double leg lifts will put more pressure on that low back because it's a heavier weight, a heavier load. So just be mindful. You can try it and always go back to the singles. Inhale to lower, exhale to pull it up. We should be moving at the same count. So if you're lowering for a 3, 2, 1, you should be lifting up for 3, 2, 1. Whatever count you're moving to, keep it equal. And then we'll do 2 more. So 2 more doubles, or you'll balance yourself out right to left. And after that last one, drop the knees in, hands to shins, rock it out. One more flowing movement here for the whole body, and then we'll transition. So we'll drop the feet to the floor now with the heels in line with the sit bones. If you happen to have a yoga block nearby, we'll take that yoga block on its low setting, placing it between those inner thighs. We're gonna move into flowing Setu Bandhasana. So this is gonna be a small inversion as our heart lifts slightly above the head. So we're getting that focus and energy flow into our upper areas here of the brain. And this will also tone and strengthen around the whole waist and the back side. So feet are parallel to each other. If you have the block, give it a nice squeeze. Arms are down, bring the shoulders under, squeeze the back side, and on our inhale, we'll press our hips up to the ceiling. And on the exhale, we'll lower back down. Again, smooth, even rhythm with the breath, squeezing to lift up, exhaling to lower. So tone and strengthen the hamstrings, the glutes, the back of the body, and stretching the front of those hips. So we just worked our hip flexors and our yogi sit-ups. So this will help stretch the front of the hips back open. We might start to lift up a little bit higher. Remember that the chest can lift towards the chin, but avoid tucking the chin to the chest. The weight should be moving into the meaty part of the shoulders. And if we do want to get our shoulders in the mix, we can add the arm movement. So when we squeeze to lift our hips up, we'll inhale the arms up and overhead. And then on the exhale, when we lower, we'll float those arms back down beside the body. Let's do 2 more, whichever variation we're choosing. And we'll meet on the exhale next time our hips and arms come down. Take the block out. Windshield wipe the knees a couple times side to side. You can open the feet wider than the hips if you want a little bit more, and maybe the knees start to fall towards the floor. Cactus those arms out from the shoulders for a little bit more heart opening. Bending at the elbows, backs of the hands flopping to the floor. So you'll get a little back bend, a little bit of a twist here. And the head may turn the opposite direction of the knees to give that neck a little counter twist. So again, thinking more of loosey-goosey movements at the beginning of our practice in the mornings. We'll take it one more time to each side. We'll float the knees back to neutral, draw the belly in to pull the knees back in, hands to knees or shins. Float the head up if we want a little bit more stretch for the back, nose towards the knees. And then we'll relax our head down, bring our right arm beside the head, roll to our right. We got to pause here for a moment because we've been on our back and in inversions here for a little bit. And then let's press into the ground and bring our bodies up to a seat. So we will come into a seated position here. We won't be here for long, but I would still recommend getting ourselves a moment to prop up on something. And sitting back up on those sit bones. Any position in the legs. So Sukhasana, easy cross, heel to heel, Siddhasana, whatever works. And then once we're in our seated position, we'll move the flesh out of the way. We will continue to draw it in through that lower belly to support our spine. We'll sit up tall, floating the head on top of the shoulders and float our arms out to the side here. On our inhale, let's just take a nice centering breath, reaching both arms up to the ceiling. Turn those palms out and float the fingertips to the floor. Seated triangle pose, right arm only. Inhale, bring it up. On the exhale, lean along that invisible wall. Keep the sit bones rooted. Stretch the waist, the rib cage, and shoulder. Our inhale pulls us up through center. We'll switch arms, lengthen, exhale over to the right. One more time each side. Inhaling. Big stretch. Inhaling up. And exhale one more time to the right. Inhale both arms up to center. We'll meet here. Bring the palms to touch and exhale to our center. We'll give our legs a switch of the cross since we always tend to sit the same way. Find the sit bones again. And then a flowing twist. Inhale, arms up. Keeping this length, exhale, we'll rotate to our right. Fingertips may float down. Let's continue this twist all the way through the shoulders, the neck, the crown of the head, and use those eyes to peek behind the body. Inhale, use your muscles to pull yourself up to center. Exhale, nice big squeeze to the left. Bring it out all the way through the crown of the head, peek behind the body. One more time to each side. Inhaling up. Exhale. Nice big twist. Use your muscles to help pull the body into it gently. We'll take it one more time to the left. After you finish that left side, we'll inhale back to our center and exhale, hands to heart. So now we'll make our big transition to our tabletop, however works for you today. We'll reorganize ourselves with our props and set up our nice strong foundation here. So fingers are wide, knees are stacked under the hips, hands are as broad as the shoulders. Be mindful of where our head is in space. You may have your toes tucked under the tops of the feet flattened out. We got to do our extension and flexion to get all our spinal movements in. So we'll go right to our cat-cows. Inhaling, relaxing the belly, stretching and lengthening from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Exhale, draw that belly in, scoop the tail under, and round the back up to the ceiling. Chin towards the chest. Follow the breath. Remembering that we're creating space here through the vertebra of the spine. We're trying to create a little bit mobility around those hip joints and the neck and shoulders. We'll bring it back to a neutral position. Let's go ahead and give our back a stretch before we do a little bit more work today. So we'll open our knees wide, touch those toes, and sit back in a child's pose here for a moment. The hands can continue to reach forward. We want to place that forehead on a surface. So we're going to really try to concentrate on that third eye center in our child's pose today. So if you can't get a firm connection with your forehead, eyebrow center in the floor, stack your fists, your hands, or place a yoga block or some type of prop right underneath that forehead. Yes, exactly. Because we really want to concentrate, put the acupressure on this point. So this pose is said to help with anxiety, stress, insomnia. And one of the reasons that is because we are pressing and trying to activate this third eye center and basically close it off so it's not overwhelmed with all the outside forces and distractions. So that is one of the benefits of this pose. So we want that contact. We are getting the stretch of the low back and the hips as well, but our concentration is a little bit more on these upper centers of our mind. We'll take one more breath in the pose. And then the next inhale will float the head and the body back up. So if you've added props, you can move them out of the way. Bring those knees back underneath the hips, hands as broad as the shoulders. So a little bit of our core work today. Stabilize those hips by drawing the low belly in. Give that right leg a nice big stretch behind us. Press that heel back. Squeeze the right glute and hamstring to now hover the right leg parallel to the floor. So we'll go into our spinal integration and add some movement today. So from here, we should still have equal weight in the hands. The low back and hip should still be level to the floor. We'll add the left arm, stretch it forward, palm faces in, the thumb is up. So we're just holding isometric strengthening here in the muscles. This is a balancing pose. Use the breath. And then if we want to make this a little bit more dynamic this morning, on our inhale, we will open the right leg out to the right and reach the left arm out to the left from the shoulder. So we're moving our limbs away from the midline. And then when you exhale, you pull the leg and the arm straight back. So on the inhale, the arm and the leg move out off the long edges of the mat up in the air. Exhale, bring it back. If that's a little bit much for our back or whatever today, you can just hold, take breaks as needed. Try one more. Exhale, pull the leg and the arm back. Bring the left arm down, or the hand down, excuse me. Float your right leg over to the left and down to the ground. We're going to take another lateral stretch, looking over the left shoulder. See if you can find that foot back there. Whether it's pointed or tucked under doesn't matter. So a big stretch for that right side. Breathe it in. And on the exhale, bring the head and the leg back up. We'll drop the knee and the foot to the floor, so we should end up back in all fours. You're welcome to rise up on those fingertips or take fists for wrists. Take a couple of our cat-cows just to get everything back in place before we do the other side. Neutral position, spread those fingers, draw the low belly in, keep the low back and hips level, give that left leg a nice big stretch back straight from the hip. Now squeeze the left side, the back side to hover it parallel to the floor. Equal weight in both hands still, be mindful of where the head is in space. And then we'll add the right arm, reaching it forward, the palm faces in, the thumb is up. So a little shaky, weeble wobbly, totally normal. Body's figuring out where it is in space. If we want to add that movement on the inhale, float the left leg out to the left, reach your right arm out to the right from the shoulder. Exhale, pull it back. Good, 2 more. Inhale, you're reaching out just as far as you can, maintain. 1 more. Next time that leg and arm come back to center, bring the right hand to the ground, and then float the left leg over to the right and down to the ground. Toes can stay tucked under, or you can point to the toes. We'll look over our right shoulder towards that foot. Big stretch for the left side. Breathe it in. And then we'll bring the head and the leg back up. Exhale, bring that knee down. Fingertips, fist for wrist. Take a couple cat-cows. And then come back to neutral. Tuck the toes under. Let's inch ourselves towards the back of our mat. So we are going to do some of our low flow this morning. This is going to start to build up the upper body strength, our triceps. Really important to keep the core engaged as well. So we're in our tabletop. The toes are tucked under. The hands are going to walk at least 1 hand's distance forward. On our inhale, we're going to glide forward into our kneeling plank. This means we're trying to bring our hips right between our knees and our shoulders. The head stays in line with the spine. On the exhales, we may take a bow, floating our wrists up and bowing the head towards the floor. That gives our wrists a break and it stretches the shoulders. And then we inhale and we come forward. So again, you're going to follow your breath. Good. And then when we want to add more from kneeling plank, we'll add our half chaturangas. So the only thing that's moving here is flexion at the elbow joint. Your elbows bend back towards the rib cage, and then you inhale, straighten them back up. At any time, just take that bow back, pop the palms to give your wrists a break. Or we can stay in our kneeling plank and try these mini tricep push-ups or half chaturangas. And the head should not be doing the work, so don't dip the head down towards the ground and lift and lower the head. You got to get the movement at the elbow joint. And if you feel like your low back starts to collapse or you get good, nice, you got to adjust, okay? So alignment over anything else. Good, love it. So those of us that have taken a bow back, a break, the next time we move forward, we're all going to come down to the ground. We can try to do this as slowly as possible. You're welcome to lift the knees up and try to move down through a full chaturanga. So that means you are hovering parallel to the floor. I haven't been practicing this, so that one didn't last very long. Okay, chin forward. Slide those hands under the shoulders, flatten out the tops of the feet. Open those feet wider than the hips for low backs, or zip the feet and legs to touch. Bhujangasana. Pull your shoulder blades down the back and together. Tighten up the muscles of the back and inhale, float the heart up. So a little back strengthening always in my classes. Got to do it. Keep breathing. The neck stays long. We want a little bit more today. Pick those hands up. Keep squeezing the back. Legs are strong. Glutes are supporting. Inhale, see if we can lift up a little bit higher. And then we're going to slide our elbows forward under our shoulders and move right into Sphinx pose. So plant those forearms to the ground. Knife the pinky edge of the hands into the ground. And at this point, relax the backside. So the heels can just fall open. Relax the glutes. Give your hips a little wiggle. Our arms are doing all the work here. We're driving our forearms into the ground. And then I'm pulling the crown of my head forward and upwards towards the ceiling. So back bending, but extension through the front of the body. So a little stretch for those abdominal muscles. And try to gaze straight forward. Sphinx pose. So this is a passive version. We're just going to hold for one more breath, and then we're going to power it back up. So the next movements we're going to be doing will be preparatory movements for headstand or forearm balance. So take one more breath in Sphinx pose. Relax the back. Keep length through the spine. And then we're going to take our hands and interweave all 10 fingers. You can also check your alignment anytime by turning your hands in, and the webbing between your thumbs and index fingers should be able to take hold of your elbow creases. If your elbows are too far out, you need to stack them right underneath the shoulders. So interweave all 10 fingers. We're going to tuck our toes under. So we're going to do this articulation movement where we try to slowly lift up and lower back down through now forearm planks. So look at your knuckles. You're going to start with the belly, the low ribs. So pull your low ribs in. Pull the inner belly in. You're going to start pushing into the ground through your arms, around the shoulder girdle. Low belly lifts up. The hip creases should lift up. And eventually the thighs lift up. So you're in a kneeling forearm plank. Those of you that want it, float the knees up, hovering parallel to the floor. Now look, we're going to inhale, drop the knees, the thighs, the hips, and the belly, and gaze forward. Exhale, look down, low ribs, belly, hip creases, hips and thighs lift, maybe the knees, hover. That's all one big strong exhale. Inhale through the nose, lower the knees, the thighs, the hips, extend the crown forward and up. 2 more. Exhale, look down, press down, pull those low ribs, belly, good, hips, thighs, maybe the knees, hover. Inhale, slowly bring it down. Gaze forward and up. We got 1 more. Kneeling forearm plank or full forearm plank. And then inhale, bring it back down. Pause for a moment. So we are going to add on to this morning. From here, we will lift up to forearm plank, and then we will try to move back into dolphin pose. So dolphin mimics downward facing dog, and actually many people will practice dolphin instead of down dog because of wrist issues. It can feel quite awkward at first. You won't have as much extension through the back of the body. So we'll want to keep our knees bent pretty deeply at first. Your heels will not ever touch the ground in dolphin unless you got some interesting double jointedness at the ankles, okay? So don't think that you're gonna feel like you're gonna feel in down dog. So look at the knuckles. We gotta push back down, so press into the ground. Strong core, pull those ribs, the low belly, the hips up. Now you are welcome to just step your knees in underneath the hips and be in a forearm all fours, or you will continue to float your hips up at this point. Now the head will drop down, but there's no weight in the head, okay? So don't put the weight into the head. All the weight's through those upper arms. Keep your knees bent here. You can inch your feet in a little bit closer. Draw the low belly in. Maybe take your drishti towards your toes back there behind you. If it starts to be a little bit much, you drop to your knees, point the toes, and you can sit back in a child's pose. So this is a strong inversion. Continue to press into the ground through those forearms. If you want to try to straighten one leg at a time to get back into those hamstrings, you may. Head is floating between those upper arms. Preparation for headstands. Try to take 1 more breath. Let's inhale, maybe try to lift up a little higher through those heels. On the exhale, we'll all drop back down to our knees, flatten out the tops of the feet. Let's come off of our arms for a moment and do sit back in that child's pose, but I still want that forehead connected to the floor. So with the knees touching, you're further away from the floor. Maybe snap the fists or use your prop here. And just observe how that pose has affected our breath, our body, our brain, without any judgment or labeling any of it good or bad. Just observe and then let it go and come back to the breath. And then from there, we'll re-extend the hands, float our body to tabletop, bring those hands one hand's distance forward, tuck the toes. Let's go into down dog and notice the difference between those two poses. So we'll lift our hips up, even out those feet, float the head between those arms. So we're back in another inversion. Lots of inversions today. So if you ever feel lightheaded, dizzy, blood pressure, stuff going on, just come down to the ground and take breaks. Now here we want to really try to open up the eyes of those knees. So press your thigh bones back, widen the sit bones. We're going to stretch out those hamstrings. One more breath. And then we'll look forward, stepping feet to hands, hands to feet. We will stay upside down unless you're modifying your forward folds, placing the elbows or hands on your thighs, or even coming all the way up. Those of us staying upside down, feet and legs are strong, pull up through those lower bandhas. Do try to release the shoulders, the arms, the head, or ragdoll your hands to your elbows here. Lower half of the body doing the work. And then today, let's do a little bit more strengthening. So we'll do our halfway lifts. Hands to shins. Squeeze the muscles of the back to open the heart and extend the crown forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Hands can even come up to the thighs. Those of us that want a little bit more, will reach our arms beside the torso, fingertips reaching to the back of the room in those locust arms. Exhale, fold. Good. Nice flat backs. One more. Inhale, halfway lift. If you have those arms, squeeze through your triceps. Exhale, roll, sit back into Utkatasana. So we're sitting back into our fierce pose as if you were sitting back into an invisible chair. Your knees should still be in line with your toes. The arms can continue to extend upwards. If we have a lot of tension or strain in our neck and shoulders today, option is to always bring the hands back to heart. We're going to go right into a little bit of balance. So draw that low belly in. Let's try to hover our right foot from the floor. Focus that drishti on one spot. We'll bring that foot down. Let's try to hover the left foot from the floor. We'll bring it back down. Let's try to sink a little further back and down. And then on our inhale, we're going to reach and extend all the way up. Gentle back bend, but just taking the drishti slightly upwards. Draw the head of those arm bones back. And then turn those palms out and exhale. Let's float the arms down beside the body. Pausing in mountain pose or Tadasana. Let's make sure we have our focus here through the whole body. So pick up those toes. Root through the mound of the big toe and inner heel. Mound of pinky toe, outer heel. Unlock those knee joints so we're not jamming our knees back. Pull up through the front of the thighs. Front body, back body, lengthens the low back down. Head is just floating. Arms are floating out beside the body. Turn those palms out. Inhale, draw a big circle out and overhead. We're going to add those heels, lifting them up on our tippy toes. Bring the palms to touch. Exhale, lower down. Just two more of our palm tree poses. Really reach, lift, and lengthen. And one more. And then exhale, bring it down. So we're going to make a transition into another pose here, Parsvottanasana, sometimes called pyramid pose. So those of us that do have chairs, you might want to grab your chair today. I use mine to help myself transition into the pose. If you don't have chairs, you're going to probably want some yoga blocks or some books in front of you. So we'll gather our things. So Parsvottanasana is going to be a big hamstring stretch. For some of us, it might turn into an inversion again with the head below the heart. So we'll see where we end up. We'll all face towards the front of our mat. If you have 2 yoga blocks, you can start with them on their high setting, about shoulder width apart in front of you. If you have 1 yoga block, just put it in the center top of your mat. And then again, if you have the chair, you can use that. So we'll walk in front of our props here. Our feet are hips width apart, so we have a little bit of space between the feet. And we'll bring our hands under our hips today because we want to keep our pelvis level and even the whole time. We'll take a step back with the right foot. This isn't a high lunge. This is a smaller stance. So we'll step back maybe 2 feet or so. We'll drop the heel to the ground and we'll let it turn in slightly so the back toes are angled out just a few degrees. Now, if your right hip followed and now your pelvis is turned off to the side, bring that right hip forward and your left hip back. We always want our hip headlights shining to the front of our corners of our mat. There's a tendency to kind of hyperextend a little too much, so make sure your core is still pulling into the back body. Unlock those knees, so don't jam your knees backwards. They're straight, but they're strong. Lift up, big breath in, and on the exhale, we're moving here. So you're gonna literally feel your pelvis pour forward. Now, some of us aren't gonna have to go very far, and we're immediately gonna start to feel this stretch up the back of the left hamstring. Nice, strong legs, strong feet, stay anchored. We are just gonna continue to breathe and hold this pose for a few moments here. So as those muscles start to stretch, maybe the fingertips come down to the seat of the chair. Maybe they move towards your props in front of you. Now try to keep the back long and extended at first. So we don't want to round through our spine. We really want to try to get all this movement at the hips. And we want to try to keep our low back level. So the other day in class, I said, think about hovering or balancing a tray of wine glasses on that low back, so we don't want them to tip or spill. Now, some of you have gone a little further into the pose, that's great. If you're a little further towards the ground, maybe the fingertips come towards the floor. Continue to pull your shoulders down the back. Your drishti will move to your big toe, and you might be back in this inversion. Pull that low belly in, squeeze the hips to the midline. So those of you who have gotten to this stage, you may add a connective tissue stretch at this point where you do tuck your chin to your chest, Jarlandhara Bandha, and you try to press your third eye center into the left knee. So there will be a little bit of rounding at that point through the spine, and that stretches more of the connective tissue. And if you're really close, bend your left knee forward to make that acupressure point with the third eye center. If you're like me, I'm light years away. So it's just the intention. Try to take 2 more breaths. The next inhale pulls us about halfway back up out of the pose. So those of you that went deeper, you need to come up back up on the fingertips. You need to make sure that the weight is back in the legs, that the core is active. Breathe it in. Anchor those feet. On the exhale, 1 hand at a time to the hips. You press off that front foot and you inhale to come all the way up. Big breath in. We have an upside down again. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Once we're upright, we'll step our right foot forward. Tadasana, float the arms out, fix the drishti on one point. Just observe. Inhale, reach those arms out wide all the way overhead. You can take a little bit of extension here, just gazing upwards. Turn the palms back out and exhale, hands to the hips. Nice firm hold right on these hip bones here. Step that left foot back, couple feet. The heel will turn in slightly, toes will turn out slightly. If the pelvis turned with you, bring your left hip back forward, right hip back. Shine your hip headlights straight forward to the front corners of your yoga mat. Unlock those knees. So if you're a hyperextender like me, I'm always jamming my knees backwards. I want them straight, but pulling up nice and strong. Open the heart, but stay connected to the core. Big breath in. Exhale, take your time. You're not going to go into your fullest expression of this pose on the first breath, second breath, even the third breath. It's important to move nice and slowly into the poses so we can practice safely. And this also gives your muscles time to adjust and lengthen. So same thing, we will hold for several moments here. So if you're following the breath and the body allows us to go a little further into the pose, you might bring your fingertips down towards the floor onto your props. Good. And this is one of those that can be very different from one side to the next. So don't assume that you will be doing the same pose on this side as you did your first side. Smooth breath in and out through the nose. Balance that tray of wine glasses on that low back. Try to keep it as level as possible. Both feet should be anchored. If you've moved a little further down, fingertips to the floor are your blocks, and you've been able to keep an extended spine to begin with here, you may draw the chin to the chest, Chaturanga Bandha, throat lock. If you see the knee, you can try to draw forehead to knee or bend the knee forward. It's okay. Getting that acupressure knee to third eye center. Big stretch up the back of the right leg for that hamstring. 2 more breaths. Next breath in takes us back to halfway lift. So as you inhale, re-extend the spine, fingertips to your props, super strong legs, squeeze your hips to the midline, pull that low belly in. Lower half of the body must be engaged. Exhale, one hand at a time, back to those hips. Then press off that front foot and inhale. Float up through the crown of the head. Once you're up, exhale, left foot steps forward, arms float down beside the body. We pause and we breathe. Keep the drishti focused on one spot. Inhale, breathe in, reach those arms out wide, all the way up. Big stretch, drishti to the thumbs for a gentle back bend. Exhale, hands to heart. All right, so let's make another adjustment here. We'll move this out of the way. But you might want to have your chair, if you have it close by for the end of class, if you want to bring your legs up onto the seat of the chair and finish in that gentle inversion. So we're going to take one more balancing pose, because balancing poses really do activate our concentration, really do help center the mind, and that's a little bit more of our focus today. And we'll take Vrikshasana, tree pose, a common pose, but a really nice calming centering pose for some days. So we'll bring the insides of the feet and legs to touch, standing tall in our space. Inhale those arms out and overhead. Exhale, bring the palms to touch. We'll center them at the front of our heart. Squeeze those hips, activate those lower bandhas. Float the right heel from the floor. At that hip, we'll turn the knee out. And then we'll softly bring the sole of the foot up to the inner ankle, the calf. Some people like to place the foot to the inner thigh. That's fine. Avoid pushing into your standing knee. Eyes are very focused on one spot. A lot of concentration here. And then I want us to try our little bit of our blind balancing today. So it might just be making our gaze really soft so that it kind of goes fuzzy. It might be lowering the eyelids just a little bit to kind of take our drishti out of it. I might be blinking the eyes for longer periods of time. And then eventually we close our eyes completely. And we try to balance. And if we come out of the pose, we just come back to it. Try one more breath. Face should be relaxed. If those eyes are closed, inhale, bring them open again. Return the knee forward, stretch the leg out, bring the foot down, pause. Inhale, let's draw that big circle out nice and wide. A little bit of extension. Palms touch, find your center, fix the gaze. Compact the hips, squeeze and lift up through the lower bandhas. Hover the left knee. At the hip, open the knee out. So we are squeezing up to the outer thigh. Glutes will be slightly active. Try to find symmetry here from this side to your first side. Relax the face. And same thing, if you start to practice blind balancing, you're gonna start weeble wobbling, wiggling all over, coming out of the pose. But it's really powerful practice for our brain to do. So I would highly recommend doing it, even if it takes you out of your comfort zone. Just make sure you're in a safe space if you do fall. Try one more breath. On the inhale, let's float those eyes open if they were closed. Try to bring the knee forward. Stretch it out. Bring it down. Pause for a moment. And then inhale, big circle, big stretch. Lift, lengthen, and reach. Gaze upwards, gentle back bend. Exhale, hands to heart. If we're not at the top of our mat, let's get there now, walking towards the front of our mat. Feet hips width apart. Again, same thing, just a big breath in, stretch everything out and up. This exhale bends the knees slightly, we hinge from the hips, and we revisit our version of Uttanasana, forward fold, which for some of us will turn back into another inversion. Inhale, halfway lift. Squeeze that back. Exhale, plant the hands, big step back, downward facing dog. Let the heels sink towards the floor, roll those upper arm bones away from the ears. Let the head float towards the ground. Inhale, heels up. And exhale, we'll bring it all the way back down to the ground. We can keep the feet and knees together, dropping the head back towards the floor, arms hang down beside the body, hands to feet. And then hands under the shoulders, tuck the chin, and we're gonna round it up, one vertebra at a time. Once we're seated back on our heels, if this feels good, some people actually like to sit in this position for meditation. You may, if that's a little bit much to sit back on the heels, we will just shift our weight over to either hip and bring our feet back around in front of us. And we're gonna come into a seated position. So at this point, whether you're sitting back on your heels and Virasana or readjusting, we are gonna be in a seated position for a little bit. And we're gonna go right into our next pranayama, which is Nadi Shodhanam. So this is where you might want that box of tissues nearby as well. So let us get reorganized one more time. So once we're in our seated position, we wanna sit up nice and tall. So what I'll do is I'll guide us verbally through 3 rounds, and then we will move through at least another 3 rounds, depending on how slow or fast we're breathing on our own. But before we begin, just rest your hands down on the knees for a moment. Let's close the eyes, make sure we're in a nice tall posture. I just want us to observe the flow of the breath at this point. So how does the breath move through the nostrils? we might notice that one side feels more open than the other. Now, we've already been doing some active asanas, so that usually also helps clear our sinuses out, especially all the headward down movement. So you might feel pretty even at this point too, but just take a mental observation either way, it doesn't really matter. And then flutter the eyelids back open, and I'll show you the mudra we'll take and guide us into it. So we'll start with chin mudra on both hands, index finger to thumb, placing the palms down on our knees. And then in the right hand, we take what's called Nasagra mudra. So it looks like the peace symbol to start. So you can make the peace symbol, and then you glue the index finger, middle fingers together. And the thumb, the ring, and the pinky, these are gonna be our pinching fingers. We turn the right hand in front of the face, and the middle and index finger will press right into that third eye center. So again, we're getting this acupressure point at that space in our body. The thumb rests on the outside of the right nostril, and the ring and pinky rest gently on the outside of the left nostril. This also literally helps keep the head up, because if you're practicing pranayama over extended periods of time, the head gets heavy and falls. So we're pushing up into that space. To begin, we inhale through both nostrils. Exhale through both nostrils. And then close the right nostril with the thumb and inhale through the left. Close the left, open the right, and exhale. Inhale back through the right. Close the right, open the left, and exhale. That's one round. Inhale left. Close left, open right, exhale. Inhale back through the right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's two rounds. Inhale left. Close left, open right, exhale. Inhale back through the right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's 3 rounds. Try to do at least 3 more rounds at your own rhythm and pace. You're breathing as smoothly as possible. If one side is a little bit more clogged, just do your best to breathe through it. Keep pressing into that third eye center. Sit up very tall. If the right arm gets heavy, place the left hand under the right elbow to help support it. So whenever you get to that third round or to your next round, and after you make that last exhale out the left nostril, we will release the hands back to the knees in chin mudra, palms down or up, eyes remain closed, and all of our focus, attention, and awareness is centered at the third eye center, Agnya chakra. Focus the mind's eye at the third eye center. You might even notice that sensation of the fingertips still pressing into the area. You might notice a pinpoint of light at that area. Relax the face. Let go of any control over the breath. Feel the weight of the shoulders, the elbows, and the backs of the hands. Continue to maintain the posture up the spine. And then take one round of a nice big breath, inhaling through the nose, fill the whole body up. And even bigger breath out through the nose, exhaling, release the breath all the way back out of the body. And then the next inhale just softly flutters the eyelids back open. We'll gently come back to our surroundings and our space. Once the eyes are open, we can release our seated position. So if you're still set back on your heels, you'll want to lean over to one hip. If we were in a cross-legged position, just give your legs a little stretch out one at a time. Point and flex those feet, get the blood flowing back through the legs. And then it is time to come back down to the ground and finish in Shavasana or a restorative pose. Like I said, if you have your chair or a piece of furniture nearby and you want to swing the backs of your calves over a piece of furniture and be in a little bit of elevation, do so. If you want to pile up some pillows or bolsters under the legs, you just have a little bit more lift. If you're near a wall, you can take legs up the wall. And of course, you can always just lie flatter to the floor. So I'll give us all a moment to get rearranged. Whatever we're doing, just try to kind of stay in this more mindful space, move slowly. But do add any props, eye coverings, anything that you want for the body to be supported. And then once we get organized today, we'll make all of our adjustments in our body, loosen up the clothing, find the back center of the skull wherever we might be. Poof those cheeks a couple times, make sure that we release the mouth, tongue, and jaw. Letting go of any tightness or tension in the muscles of the body, all the little muscles around the face, all the larger muscles around the hips, the back. Trying to continue to cultivate the stillness throughout the body. The breath is peaceful, quiet, almost still. If the mind wanders, we just bring it back to the rhythm of the breath. Or this morning, we can rest the mind's eye one more time at that third eye center, the space between our brow, our place of wisdom, intuition, and higher understanding. And we give ourselves permission to let go, to feel a sense of surrender, and to relax for just one more moment this morning. So we'll slowly start coming back to that natural rhythm of our breath. And depending where we are, breathing life back into the body. Just a little wiggle of the toes and fingertips. If you've taken a gentle inversion, legs up the wall or legs over furniture or a chair, if you have them up the wall, you want to slide your feet down, bring the soles of the feet to touch, knees open, and Baddha Konasana for a moment. If we're more elevated, we can stretch our legs one at a time up to the ceiling, point and flex the feet. If we're closer to the ground, just stretch your legs out into your long body pose, flex and point the toes a couple times. The arms may reach overhead, again, depending where we are. Just giving our body some movement. And then we'll step our feet in or to the edge of our prop. And if it's available, hug our knees in, hands to shins to massage the back. Bringing the right arm beside the head, rolling onto our right side, pausing in Supta Balasana, sleeping baby for a moment. Maybe making a positive intention or mantra to take with us off our mats today back into our daily lives. And then try to keep those eyes closed or soft, press into the ground. We'll bring the body back up one more time, sitting in any comfortable seated position to take a couple more breaths together today. So minding our surroundings, sit up tall on those sit bones, float the head on the shoulders, float the arms out beside the body. Palms turn out, big breath in to float those arms all the way up to the ceiling. Exhale, turn the palms back down to the ground. Float the fingertips all the way back down to the floor. Let's do that again. Inhale, reach those arms up. This time, let's gather up everything we need for the rest of our day. On the exhale, float those fingertips back down to the ground, and we get to let go of all that other junk we don't need. And this time, we'll inhale, reach those arms up to the ceiling, bringing the palms to touch, and exhaling the hands down in front of the heart center. Humbly bowing the head down to the heart to honor and thank ourselves, our bodies, each other, and anyone else that made it possible for us to practice our yoga together today. If you'd like to join me in chanting the Om Shanti mantra, please do so. Otherwise, just sit with the breath for a moment. To chant, we take a deep breath in through the nose. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. And I thank you all so much for spending a beautiful morning. We all got to sleep in a little bit too on our mats, doing good things for ourselves. So for the month of November, we'll continue some of this work, and we will build into maybe some type of inversion. Kind of brought in a little bit of shoulder stand a couple classes ago. So whether it's a supported bridge, shoulder stand, if you have a personal headstand practice, we will start gradually adding those things in for November. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.